G'day, this is Oz ADV Rider and this is episode 4 of the V-Strom front end conversion series. In this video we'll be taking a look at all the small things I've got to do. Getting the front end on there was the easy part. I've got to mount up my dash, ignition, brakes, headlight, blinkers, all that good stuff. So first up we'll go and have a look at the full lock stops. So if we take a look at the V-Strom's bottom clamp, it just had this one stopper on here. It worked both sides, all smooth this side. So on the left hand side I actually ground this down. I noticed it was getting pinched between the fork leg and that stop. So I ground that side down. Now this side, so on my right side, for my right side lock, I had to grind that side back a bit to get a bit more turn out of it. It was stopping a bit too early. But the left hand turn, there was nothing. So I made this up. That just fits in there. And that is my left hand lock. So that's the brake caliper on. So we've got the WR brake caliper on an oversized disc adapter. I've got the WR brake line. I've just put on these fork protectors. They're the UFOs, the brand. I got them from MX store, only 50 bucks. So we've got brake line. Now what I don't like is the way I've looped this. This is the V-Strom's master cylinder. The WR's port was out here and shot the brake line out that way. This one I've had to run it down, loop it up and over. I'm not overly keen on that, but that's how it is at the moment. So I've mounted my ignition switch, a couple of aluminium blocks mounted on these little threaded holes. This thing is huge. I'd like to get a smaller one and mount it somewhere else. I really would have liked to put that elsewhere, but again, that's where it's going for now. The other thing I've done is mounted up my dash. I've mounted it. I made up this little clamp. That is where the front of the fuel tank mounts. Bolt goes through that. So I've got this chunk of aluminium, drilled a 16mm hole, drilled two 5mm holes through it, hacksawed through the middle. One side I tapped out to M6 and the other side I drilled out to 6.5. So for my Speedo sensor, bit of aluminium angle, couple of holes, bolted it on, and I'm going to bolt that right on there to the brake caliper mount. Then I can run the cable up with the brake hose. So I've still got headlight and indicators to go. And tidy up all this wiring. Right, I need a break from all those fiddly little jobs. I've still got to decide on the headlight. I can't decide if I'm going to go with something similar to this, a small single one, a motocross style headlight, rally tower, I don't know. But while I'm trying to decide, I'm going to sort out the springs. So these are the springs out of the forks. They have been cut down 75mm when I lowered them. I knew the spring rate was going to be way too soft, but I just wanted to get the forks together and on the bike to make sure they were actually going to fit. So rather than go out and buy new springs, cut them just to find out they're the wrong spring rate and then they're useless, I managed to find some second-hand springs. These are for a YZ450 motard, so they are a bit stiffer. They only cost me about $80. They look brand new. I'm guessing they're just old stock that never sold. Now I've been using a spring rate calculator and I've worked out if I cut them to 300mm long and I put a spacer in for the other 83mm, I think it was, the spring rate actually increases up to 0.73 kilograms per millimeter, which is perfect for me. and it'll also limit my travel a little bit. At the moment I have 225 millimeters of travel, and the tyre's going to hit the radiator with about 20 millimeters to go. So cutting this right down is going to limit that travel, and yeah, we'll see how that works out. So eventually I'd like to get a bit more travel out of those forks again. It'll mean just buying more springs and working out my spring rate again, but I'll have a better idea what I'm working with and what spring rate to aim for. But yeah, I've got a little idea brewing in the back of my head for the bike for a future project. But yeah, probably should do one thing at a time. Righto, let's get these cut and flattened out and back in the forks. So I know I said this in the first episode, but it's probably important to say again, I'm not an expert in suspension. I'm recording all this just to share my experiences. I've never done it before, so I'm learning as I go. Now, having said that, I've cut my springs down to 300 millimeters long. Seems like a long way to cut them. That's what came out of it. And I've got some spacers made up. So we'll get those back in the forks and see how they go. Hopefully, I've got the spring rate right now. So you might have noticed the poor condition of these forks too, the outside surface, all the gold's all gone. They're pitted, so they're not looking too healthy. So when I bought them, they had these carbon wraps on them. These are ones that just pull apart and snap around it. They look terrible. I'll show you some photos that I took when I first got them. They didn't quite match up at the back. There was a gap there. They're a bit like a hospital gown. They didn't quite cover the back. But moisture, dirt gets in, it rubs, and yeah, it really makes a mess of them. I've actually gone over that with a wire wheel, smoothed it all out, and I think I'll just paint them. I was looking at doing a, I don't know, I was thinking of doing vinyl wrap. I've never wrapped anything in my life though. I don't know. I think I'll just paint them. Spacer on. Guide. Our top cap. Done. So I decided to paint the forks while they were out of the bike. I didn't think gold would really work. I could have went black. There's a hell of a lot of black going on up the front. So I decided to put a bit of colour in it, and I thought I'll match the bike and go blue. Now that I have, I'm not so sure about it. That's very blue. Anyway, we'll get it on the bike, see what it looks like. If it looks wrong, I can always paint it again. Let's get this bike back together again. So my very blue forks are back on again. Still not sure if I like them or not. We'll have a better look when everything's back together and they're out in the sun. I've put my guard back on. Now what I don't like, I've had to cut the back of it to make it fit. I was going to get a WR guard, but I think I would have had to cut it too, so I thought I may as well just use this one for now. Yeah, really not happy about having to do that. I just don't see any other way around it. To protect the radiator, I've got a bit of aluminium. I'm going to fit that behind that radiator guard, just to protect that center piece of the radiator. It's going to restrict airflow a little bit, but it's better than it getting caked in mud or getting damaged. So I've decided to use the same headlight again. This is a side mounted headlight, has your mounts there. This is how I had it mounted, these little brackets and fork clamps. Where do they go? Yeah, they were mounted on there like that. So obviously these aren't going to fit the new fork, so I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was looking at getting a motocross style headlight, but I think I might have problems with that that center bracket on my frame. I'm not quite sure if they'd fit, and I really like the bare bones look of the single headlight sitting on its own with no fairing around it. So I was looking at bottom mounted headlights. I'd still have to come up with some kind of bracket to fit it to the bike. So I thought, oh, why don't I just use what I've got and make a mount for it. So this is what I've come up with. I drilled a couple of holes here, and that will fit straight on there. And that solved another issue of indicators. Where am I going to fit those? Turns out these side mount holes are an M8 thread, exactly the same as my indicators. Yeah, I thought I was going to have to drill these out to fit the blinkers, but they screw straight in. That's it. So, got a little plate here, 2 threaded holes to go on the inside. Got a little piece of rubber there too to isolate it, take out some vibration. Hopefully these screws are long enough. Yeah, that should be alright. Righto, let's go have a look how that fits. So this little bolt here is my adjustment. I need to adjust the headlight up and down. I'm going to do it with that bolt. Get it to where I want and do up the lock nut. So I'll finish off fitting up that headlight, get all the wiring sorted out, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all back together. Well, yeah, I'm out of that dark dingy shed and out into the light. It's not exactly sunny, but we can have a better look at the bike now. Those blue forks are growing on me. They are darker than the other blue, aren't they? That's alright. I'll put my flying V-Strom stickers on there. Now I was talking about the jacking screw. It was very hard to see in the shed. That's the jacking screw on my headlight bracket. So it mounts on this bolt hole here, and I can adjust that up and down. Yeah, I've got a saddle there for my throttle cables, and that bolt goes through that saddle into my bracket for the headlight. If we look up under my mud guard, you can see it finishes just higher than my radiator guard. So I'll put that sheet of aluminium just up a bit higher. That'll just protect the front of the radiator. I got all this part of my cabling a bit nicer. There's still a bit of a mess down here. Now one problem I have, I've lost a lot of my turning circle. I can adjust those stops a bit more, get a little bit more out of that right side. I think I'm just about on the limit on the left side though. Now my Speedo is not too hard to see down here, but because this camera sits up a bit higher, that blocks a bit of my vision down low, so I might have to mount the camera down lower. I do like the Speedo down there though. Righto, let's go. So I'm just at Mount Dandenong, I'm not going too far away. I'll tell you what, that steering is so much more responsive. I think it's because the offset's a lot closer on these forks than the V-Stroms. I reckon I've got that spring rate right, it feels really good. These ladies probably think I'm just hooning, I'm testing. I'm not hooning, I'm testing, yeah. Oh bloody hell, we got the horses. Rightio, don't want to spook them. They look pretty calm anyway. I'm bracing myself for bumps and it's just gliding over. Yeah, that steering just feels so friggin' light. Rightio, try some more dirt. Yeah, I'm not going too far today. Just a bit of a shakedown ride, test it out, and get home and check it over. Yeah, I'm watching you, buddy. You're not watching me, are you? Corrugations. Really happy with how that's turned out. Hope you've enjoyed the series. Hasn't been the easiest modification, that's for sure. It was bloody stressful. Took me a long time to get it done. But yeah, bit by bit, problem by problem, I got there. A few minor adjustments. I'll try and get a little bit more turn out of the steering. If I can, I'll bring that headlight back a little bit more. Sticking out a long way, it kind of needs to clear the steering. What else? New brake line. And yeah, that's about it, I think. There might be a few minor tweaks here and there. Righto, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.